politically and ideologically mental disorders among women is only increasing. Now today I have some real boss queens for you. You know this is going to be good. But for real, our civilization is actually in trouble. Guys, if you're new to the channel, I do battle with the forces of darkness, and I'm here to defeat these Marxist miscreants. Anyway, I'm told I need to do an intro so that people understand what's going on or something. But when I saw this, I clearly knew that this had to be a video, because this is actually so insane that if this happened 10 years ago, it would be considered part of a sitcom, like somebody wrote this. But in fact, we are just witnessing mental depravity and mass mental illness. Guys, before the internet happened, there were psychological contagions that took place where people had essentially mass panic disorders, and they would freak out over things that didn't exist. But the internet allows mental contagion to spread at the speed of light, quite literally. And certain mental pathogens infect women more than they infect men, because men and women are not psychologically identical. And the radical left, as they hijack the notion of compassion and inclusivity, tell women something like, if you accept our ideological statements in exchange for throwing out logic, reason, rationality, you can be considered a good person, you can be protected from accountability, and you can wield resentment in place of virtue. Now, I want to make it clear, this is not opinion-based. Proclivity to abide in left-wing authoritarianism has been measured psychologically as a feminine temperament and low verbal IQ, which means somebody with a feminine personality and an inability to contend with ideas. And this is theoretically derived, meaning that it is not somebody's opinion. This is simply measurement. This is as much of a measurement as saying the sun is 93 million miles away. What I'm going to show you here is freakishly disturbing to any person who can think, and completely innocuous if you are a part of the radical left.
Right now, Donald Trump is telling us that he wants to be a dictator. And if we...
Right, okay, this is... I would laugh, except this is actually very serious. Like, that's obviously a hilarious way for the video to begin, right? These women are all sitting around in a room together, worried about Donald Trump. I had this conversation with somebody recently, but the reason why any of the popular men that get condemned by the mass media and the Matrix and just, the liberal side of society that hates ideas and objective facts and reality and individual accountability and individualism and meritocracy, all those people, the guys that get condemned by that crowd are always embodiments of reality. In the case of Trump, it's alpha male billionaire who says what he wants and is not controllable, and is a walking embodiment for essentially the uncontrollable masculine archetype, as well as demonstrated competence in capitalism. So this enrages, of course, women that are told that masculinity is toxic, that objective frameworks are nothing more than oppression, that truth and truth patterns are oppression. And so that's really the basis of what's going on here. And I want to explain to you why you're hearing this level of delusion. It's not arbitrary, right? This is very deliberate.
Right now, Donald Trump is telling us that he wants to be a dictator. And if we've learned one thing about this man...
As you can see, they're living in some sort of delusional world. A fever dream of their own neurotic anxiety.
Believe him. Yeah. Believe how crazy he is, because he...
Right. Any person that is not made in the image of degenerate femininity, who hates individuality and meritocracy and objective reality and truth, must be crazy. Right. The other people are crazy, not us, as we make things up that are literally not even connected to reality in any way.
Telegraphs it.
That's exactly right.
He tells you there's no hood.
Right, and notice that it's not just lying. You will perpetually see them reaffirm each other in the symmetry of the opposite of the truth. So rather than just saying something that isn't true, they will say the opposite of the truth and then affirm, yes, that is correct, while it is actually a complete lie. So she says delusional statement. The failed woman vice president, who is the most unpopular vice president of all time, literally in the history of the country, says, yes, that is correct.
There's no hoodwinking.
Exactly right.
He tells you over and over again.
This is the ultimate conspiracy, guys. This is what you should understand, is this is the ultimate conspiracy among women, because the radical left requires people to disconnect from reality. So they have to engage in a world where nobody's allowed to say anything that's true. Nobody's allowed to engage in individuality or objectivity or meritocracy or logic or reason or rationality. And in order to do that, you have to perpetuate literally a conspiracy. You have to have a conspiracy with each other. The agreement is any person that steps outside the ideology of Marxism is labeled a bad person and therefore is no longer a virtuous person. In fact, these women are not virtuous at all. They are just, part of the radical left, and they pretend as though they have virtue because they wield their resentment in the place of objective morality.
On Truth Social at 3 a.m. in cap locks, and then the next morning on Newsmax.
Right. Masculine men talking in caps is referencing objective reality. This is enraging to them.
It's literally non-stop.
Oh, and of course, calling out incoherence is the equivalent to oppression, because as the ideological left is based in incoherence and saying the opposite of the truth, any person that says the truth is considered an oppressor. Because the dichotomy in Marxism is only oppressor, oppressee, victim, victimizer. And virtue is doled out to the identity classes along those lines. So notice how they aren't contending with anything that he actually says. They're just saying, oh, look, masculine billionaire says things, automatically oppressor, automatically bad person, automatically everything he says is wrong because masculine billionaire types in caps lock.
No whisper. There is no dog whistle. It is like a gigantic bark.
I don't think it's hyperbolic to...
So a big problem of this century is figuring out how women can live in reality without mentally collapsing so that they don't hold civilization hostage in the image of their degenerate femininity. What these women are experiencing is something worse than delusion. This is a mental virus. This is an existential threat to civilization as long as they hold civilization hostage with their vote. This is actually a relatively new phenomenon because for most of human history, the way women interfaced with objective reality to overcome their emotionality and inability to think logically was masculinity. But because Marxism has funneled its resentment into feminism, telling women to reject masculinity and label it as toxic, they are no longer able to have that apparatus for connecting with the objective world. So then what they're left with is not only being chaotic, not being able to understand and experiencing anxiety constantly, because that's, by the way, that's what you do when your mind is chaotic and you can't settle on things. It's the reason why women in marriages are happier, by the way, and experience less anxiety, and also the reason, just quick side note, that women that are single in their 40s and 50s occupy the greatest demographic of people on antidepressants. But they will react to objective reality itself as if it is the enemy. So you have them saying the opposite of the truth. This is what actually defines the left these days, is actually just an opposition to reality. They are not at war really with their political opposition in terms of people. They do despise anybody that embodies how they're wrong. But more truthfully, they are at war with the existence conceptually of objective reality, of objective frameworks, of truth itself. Because once you acknowledge that truth exists, this might sound fundamental, but it's not to them. Once you acknowledge that truth exists, then you acknowledge that you are therefore accountable to that truth, because the truth is derived from reality, not yourself, not your ideology. It's not socially constructed. Once you acknowledge that an objective truth exists, you are accountable to it, and that is intolerable to feminism. The same reason they demonize masculinity is the reason why they cannot engage with objective reality.
To say this genuinely could be the last democratic election we ever have.
You're right.
Listen to what he says. He's telling you.
Yeah, so they're perpetually suffering, just constantly in a state of emotional anxiety, and they're distraught. And because they're driven by resentment, they are, some of the most miserable people on the face of the planet. Again, the demographic that is most on antidepressants is single, childless women between the ages of 40 and 50. These women obviously fit right in. They're a bit on the older side, of course. But they are called, ideologically, to demonize reality itself. Now, the second video, which I will conclude the analysis with, is this. So, the very similar type situation, statement made by a woman experiencing the neuroticism of ultimate resentment, says something that is completely incoherent. In fact, opposite to the truth, considering Republicans are the ones that ended slavery. Her statement is, Republicans want to bring back slavery. If you look at the vote to end slavery, Democrats voted against ending slavery. Democrats also voted against ending segregation, but these are just objective facts, so they will, this is oppressive reality if you were to think about it as a leftist. What I'm saying is very, very oppressive.
Take a look at the thing.
By the way, I'm aware that this show is completely failing. People are on X, and most of the show's views are actually just people ridiculing the show. But it is interesting to see the degenerate psychopathology manifest so that you can understand what's going on.
Things that they're rolling back. Remember, I said ages ago, you know, they, in their minds, they want to bring slavery back. They're okay with it.
Right, and then you see the degenerate women nodding, and some of them are just looking at her thinking, can I get away with this level of delusion? Can I agree with her? And the calculus isn't something like, is it correct? Is her statement correct or is it false? The calculus is, am I a good person if I can disagree with her or not? Because it's, for women, it's about your status, your social level. If their social level is threatened, then they will immediately go with whatever, you know, represents them as a good person. Whoopi Goldberg is clearly, you know, the head honcho, the ringleader in this circle of disabled pathology. And so they're thinking to themselves, if I disagree with her, can I be a good person? And the inevitable calculus will be, as long as they are possessed by the radical left-wing ideology, I must adhere to incoherence and resentment, no matter what form it may manifest itself in order to be a good person. So there you have it, guys. This is only increasing. You can tell that this is getting worse. This political disability, mental disability, women are experiencing is only getting worse and more depraved, and more people need to recognize this. You should show this to your sister, you should show this to your mother, you should, I mean, I've been very calm, I understand this in an extremely high resolution format, so I don't have to appeal to emotion, I can just talk about reality and facts. If you know somebody that is in danger of being infected and, you know, having their life destroyed by resentment, you know, you don't want them to end up being single and alone, childless, drinking wine, buying cat food. We know the data shows that those women are the most miserable on the planet. Literally, people in third world countries are happier than those women, which is incredibly interesting. But it's something like the call of the void, is the call to say the opposite of the truth, the call to embrace resentment and be an enemy of objective reality itself, because objective reality is oppression once you align yourself with the anti-truth, anti-morality, anti-human core of leftism. Subscribe to the channel, guys.